great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I'm looking forward to diving into the book and your world of productivity. You're a master of productivity. So I'm looking forward to getting into it. So thank you.
Great. Great. Looking forward to this as well. And it's just half an hour, right? So we'll
Yes.
keep it short and sweet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So I'll go ahead and start if you're ready.
Okay. Yep.
Right,
Sure
cool.
am.
Great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute. And I'd love to begin our journey into your book and being the master of productivity by asking you, 4 years ago, we were trying to figure out how we were going to get out of this pandemic, how long it's going to last, the
Right.
lasting effects. How did you get through that time period and how did it change the way that you do things now?
Ah, well, that's a great question, Joe. Um, for me, getting through the pandemic, being one of those people early on when masks were hard to come by. There are a few of us that have sewing machines and the skills. And one of the things that I started doing was making masks.
Yeah.
To be able to at that time it was very hard to get a hold of even the paper masks. So and they were all saying, oh, you should wear cloth masks. So my one way of getting through it was beginning to sew and make all the masks. And part of that mask making is I have sections here in my book on the Art of Agile Living, talk about that, because one of the things that I found is I got to the point where I was multitasking on while I was sewing, and never a good thing. I didn't sew my fingers together, which is really good, but I wound up making things that were completely unintended
Yeah.
mistakes. And that was one of the pieces that I was using in the book. And that's, kind of what did I learn through it is as much as we know our brains are not really suited to multitasking, we still do it.
Yeah.
We're drawn to it. There's something about us as humans that we love the ability to say, yes, I can do two things at once, and maybe I can do three and four things at once. And we learn these lessons, sometimes a little harshly, that our brains really only process one thing at a time. And that was one of the things I learned during that time. And I've, been using that now in talks and in sections of the book that, hey, you do make mistakes. Your brain thinks you think you're doing more than one thing at a time, but you're really only focusing on one thing. All those other things that you're not focusing on that you think you're doing, there's a little muscle memory and there's a lot of inattention to it. So it was beginning to understand that productivity again, that productivity hack that we all learn, that do one thing at a time, finish one thing, and you actually get more done faster that way than trying to do three things at once and switching between them.
So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do on a
Yeah.
daily basis. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of grade schoolers, third graders. It's
Uh-huh.
career day. And one of the kids says, hey, what do you do for a living? How do you answer them?
I'll start with my superpower is I organize work to get stuff done. So what I do for a living is I help people organize their work to get things done. And I work in the IT field most primarily. I've worked with programmers, developers, engineers, and designers, project managers, all in helping them get their projects and get their work done. And we use a lot of techniques. There's in the field, there's things like in project management, the standard project management techniques and agile techniques. And I bring to them these ability to focus on what you're doing, adapt to change, and respond to feedback that you're getting on what you're building. So that's what I do for a living.
So what did you want to be in the third grade when you were growing up? What was your dream?
Oh gosh, third grade, probably be a ballerina.
Yeah.
That's all I remember playing with dolls and say, "Oh, I want to be a ballerina." It just seems so glamorous, but never in your generally in your wildest dreams when you're that young, do you have any idea of what you really want to be?
Yeah.
Right? You
Right.
grow into these roles and you respond to the market and the influences around you.
Yeah.
Later in high school, I actually had no desire to go to college. I
Yeah.
was taking classes and learning techniques to be a secretary. And I said, well, that's good enough. I can get a good job doing that. What do I need to go to college for? I didn't like high school
Yeah.
until I actually was put in front of some early computers at my high school. And I was just taken by it. I said, oh my God, I don't know really what this is, but this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so, last minute, I'm now trying to go to college and get a degree in computer programming. So that's what life is like, right? You
Yeah.
you think you know what you want to do, but it's all about responding and responding to change and market forces.
Yeah. So, what were some of the early seeds, though, that were planted into you that made you love technology and productivity? What were some of and where were you born and raised? Are you from Michigan originally?
Oh, no, I am from New Jersey originally.
Okay. Okay.
So, and kind of the northwestern side of New Jersey, in a small resort community. Some
Okay.
people would commute to New York from there, but that's an hour ride, and it's a very long ride, a long commute.
Yeah.
Um, so for me, I didn't have a lot of exposure. It was that early high school interaction with the data processing team, the one woman who was running it, and some of the students like myself who helped her, that got me interested in the IT field, and it was the community college that really cemented that deal of, yeah, I really like this programming. There's something about that thinking logically
Yeah.
and building and developing things and seeing the end result. And even though you're working with a computer, you're not with people, and that feedback is very harsh at times. There's something about that methodical way of working that suited me.
Yeah.
And later I found one of the things that I seemed to be best at was helping organize getting work done. So I
Yeah.
spent a lot of time in project management because that's basically what you do, right? You work with teams and you help them get their work done. And those were really some of the seeds that got me to where I wound up spending my career.
So, who's been a hero for you? Who's been somebody that's been an inspiration in your life?
Oh, these are tough questions. um Because I think some for me aren't one of your best inspirations, some of the people that you work with on a regular basis. And I had a supervisor, when I was working at AT&T, back in the early 1980s, and he was probably one of the best influencers for me. He showed a lot of support and trust in me. I was a young systems programmer, working at a company, doing skills that I was really learning at. Some of those things that you do as a systems programmer, you take training classes from companies like IBM, but a lot of it is you learn on the job. And he was really very good at teaching me and sitting back and just letting me learn on my own. And he put a lot of faith in me. And at one point, we were moving our data center to Florida as the company was beginning to restructure and move its operations. And we were down in Florida, and I was building a key component of the operating system. And when we got there and it didn't load the first time, he said, "No, it's okay. We'll just keep working at it, Helene. I know you can do it." And it's that kind of trust, right? That you have in someone that, and you lead from behind instead of constantly telling me what to do. He let me learn and coached and nudged along the way. And it's that kind of support that I think you look for in your mentors and really who are your heroes in life.
So, if you could meet one person alive on the planet right now that you respect or are fascinated by, who would that be? Who would you love to meet and talk to? Hmm.
um, and the first one that came to mind was Elon Musk.
Okay.
And although there's a lot of things he says and does I don't agree with, I purchase his products, I drive one of his cars, and I've read his biography, and there's just things that he has done in life that as as erratic and sporadic that he seems to be, he's got great insights.
Yeah.
He seems to have this ability to see where things are going and
Yeah.
have this big picture. So he'd be someone I'd enjoy meeting and get an insight on big picture of where he's seeing not only driving technology going, space technology, but now he's delving into AI. And where does he see things? Where does he see our world in 30 years?
And speaking of productivity, he obviously is at a very high level, and as you are too. So, what is it every day that makes you wake up and do the work that you do, helping people, but also evolving and growing as a professional? What is that for you every day?
I think for me, that is part of the way that I organize my work. right? So I have a visual aid that I use on a regular basis on what I'm doing for the day. It's more than just a calendar. While it has my calendar activities on there, it is all the tasks and the things I'm looking to get done. So when I wake up every morning, one of the first things I do is I look at my planning sheets, and that helps me understand, what does the day look like? What is happening today? What are we looking to accomplish? And how busy does it seem to be, or how unstructured and loose does it seem to be? And for me, that's a motivator, right? That helps me do what I enjoy doing, and keep moving forward and keep learning and growing. My method includes a way to have a backlog of ideas and things that I can pull from in projects that you want to do, or little tasks that you'd like to play with that kind of nag at you, especially if you can't get them done. I have this method of putting them in a backlog and looking at it on a weekly basis and inserting them into the week. Like, oh yeah, this would be fun to get to that little task today. So it's these reminders of things that you want to do that help you grow, as well as getting your work done that needs to get done. That's such a motivator for you to keep going.
What's been the best advice you've ever gotten?
Best advice I've ever gotten is probably around slowing down and working in smaller chunks and getting feedback from others.
Yeah.
Right. So often we are willing to, we think we know, we have all the answers, and we just barge forward. And I've found that the advice that I've gotten on, just let's get some feedback. Let's try this little bit and let's get some feedback. And that's been some of my best advice that has helped me grow, because the feedback you get, whether it's from friends, family, clients, coworkers, can be so insightful and give you a whole different perspective from what you were looking at when you were starting.
So, as somebody that's in IT, what side of the line or story do you side on? The Bill Gates or the Steve Jobs? What's the one that's fascinating that you tend to lean into a little bit more?
Steve Jobs, for sure.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs, for sure. From using all of his products to just seeing things from that different perspective. There was someone, again, who had that erratic side to him as well, but an incredibly creative side and willingness to take risks and to just go in completely different directions and produce things that look very different from what other people were doing from the beginning. In introducing the first mouse that's really was a commercial use, to that whole click and drag type technology, and that WYSIWYG technology of what you see is what you get. All of that is some of that early view of building something very different from what everyone else was seeing, and he continued to do that. Apple, you can complain Apple has some of its challenges, that things don't always work perfectly, but I do love, once you're on that ecosystem, how many things interact so well together with each other. And that's what really makes you productive, right? When you can find that your tools are working for you and
Yeah.
with you, not against you.
Absolutely. So, the Art of Agile Living, talk to me a little bit about it. Give me kind of a abstract, get
Mhm.
people's appetite wet for them to go out and get this book.
Right, right. So the art of agile living is really for those who are having trouble getting work done, or even getting a project started, with something as simple as a sticky note, and a very small sticky note. This book can change your life. So that's my short little intro to it. And it
Yeah.
really is, it's all about taking your work and learning how to break it down into smaller chunks so that you can focus on it and get things completed in a timely fashion. So that's your motivator to keep going. That's what helps drive me on a regular basis, and get early feedback. So, being able to actually start work and complete things is such a challenge for a lot of us today, and that's one of the things that I hear from people when we talk that they're having trouble getting things done. It's just even getting started or having the time to work on projects. So it comes back down to helping to manage everything that you've got, whether it's work, home, or play activities. We have a lot in our daily and in our day that's vying for our attention.
Yeah. So of
Excuse me.
all of
Excuse me.
no, you're fine. So of all of the things that you've done and evolved to in your life, what are you the
Mhm.
proudest of?
Mm. On the business side, what am I the most proudest of? Probably.
Yeah.
I would say, I actually probably. Well, I can talk about projects and companies that I've started and conferences that I've been at. Honestly, the thing I'm probably the proudest of is actually writing this book,
Yeah.
producing something physical and tangible that speaks to a lot of people. um, it's quite an accomplishment. I mean, it's an accomplishment if you've never written a book before, and if you have, you know what goes into it. As
Yeah.
much as you say, "Oh, this is I have lots that I can say, and it sounds easy. I'm great at writing," or maybe you're not great at writing. There's an awful lot behind the scenes that you're working in to really put something together that can be received well by others. From working with editors and designers and laying out the books and getting your pictures just the way you want them and just how telling the story, getting early feedback,
Yeah.
and then the whole publishing realm was a lesson. So it's been a labor of love for the last couple of years, and it's probably the thing I'm most proud of currently.
What's been the best feedback you've gotten from somebody in regards to the book?
I love that I've had a couple of really nice things, a really nice feedback from folks, but I think some of the shortest, best things I've gotten is like, and you don't need software to do this, and it's a life hack. And that's some of the feedback I'm hearing, that people are finding that it is so easy for them to use it, right? It's
Yeah.
quick and it's simple, and it's tools that you've got in front of you, and it's tangible. And that's what I'm hearing. That's the feedback, and the best feedback I've been hearing is just, yes, this works, and it's remarkable in how simple it is and how it works for us as humans to interact with something physical as opposed to constantly something on our screens or something technological. And that's one of the things that people will say is, I work in the IT field, right? I carry around devices like everybody else does. And we were just talking about our technology and our love for technology, and who do I want to talk to? And well, yeah, I want to talk to someone who's high in the technology field. Technology is great, but it doesn't solve all of our problems.
Right.
And we as humans really have evolved in a physical world to deal with physical things. And I've just found, and research has corroborated what I've been finding, is that as you deal with something physical, right, like this little packet of sticky notes and dealing with an individual sticky note at a time, that makes something that you had that was a concept just in your head way more concrete. It's concrete, it's physical, it has weight, it has shape, it has size to it. And I move it from I'm working on it to I'm done with it.
Yeah.
And it's something that I can carry around, and I can crumple up and say I'm done. And that's my motivator of like, wow, I completed something.
Yeah.
Um, or it's something as a reminder that I need to get done, right?
Yeah.
Something that I can focus on. And we forget that as humans, we're in a physical world.
Yeah.
Everything that we interact with, everything we've evolved to was to work in a physical world.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, the biggest beauty of this practice. And that's some of the feedback that I'm getting, that people are resonating with. Like, well, yeah, this is really nice, and it's simple, and it's better than a checklist, because I can take these little stickies. Oops, sorry,
Oh, you're
I
fine.
clicked.
No, it's all good.
I can take these little stickies and move them from one place to the other.
Yeah.
I can rearrange things. I can rearrange the order way simpler than having to rewrite an entire to-do list or have to redo the numbers on a to-do list.
Yeah.
So there's something about that tangible piece that I call kinesthetics
Yeah.
that really connects with us as humans.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 18-year-old version of you. you can give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the life you've led, the wisdom you've gained along the way, what advice would you impart on that young version of you?
Mm, mm. That's I like that question, and I've had someone ask that before, and I've had that question asked, like, what advice would you give of your 18-year-old? And I think I would tell her to follow her dreams a little bit further.
Yeah,
I love where I am. I love how my life turned out. Um, but I think there was a side of me that was still a little risk averse at 18. And I could have been maybe a little more willing to grab what was out there and to
yeah.
to take my college, take it further at the time rather than defer it and start working. And work a little bit harder at some of those opportunities that are out there.
Yeah.
I think that would have been the one advice to the 18-year-old. I think go for it, and don't be so timid.
So with that in mind, everything that you've done and evolved to in your life
Mm.
at this point, what are you the proudest of? Or actually, not even that. We we
Yeah.
we already covered that. More
Yeah.
specifically, let's get to the heart and soul. Everyone has a perception of you.
Mhm.
Family, friends, all of your readers, everybody in a business sense, but you run the show. What's your
Mhm.
perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Probably closer to a type A personality in that I'm a control freak. And I recognize that. My husband is also. So we have learned to complement our control freak tactics. So that's how I would see myself as someone who indeed can be a little strong-willed. Of my two children, my one older son is equally as strong-willed as I am. So I know I'm strong-willed. I tend to like to control things. So these are things I have to work on when I'm with other people to learn how to work with others. Um, and I have a strong, strong sense of wanting to complete things.
Yeah.
This of having things uncompleted or incomplete drive me crazy. So for me, I have a very strong sense. I'm very goal oriented, and that's part of what motivates me to move through projects and tasks and work because I'm so focused on just completing that goal.
So we get off the call, time machine pulls up. You can go anywhere in the history of civilization and see one event with your own eyes. What would you love to have seen?
Mm, huh. Probably for me, it'd be somewhere in the technology side. And I probably would have loved to have seen, some of the first, I was thinking of some of the first computers.
Yeah.
But some of the first computers can go all the way back to Alan Turing and the Enigma
Yeah.
machines
Mhm.
and seeing that work. Or some of the early IBM machines that were doing some of the early census calculations. And I think the first ones were actually for elections.
Yeah.
That's where it would be fun to be on some of that early um, steps of the technology that we all use daily today, and to be in with like the systems programmers and the engineers as they are working through the problems and fixing them and dealing with just that thrill of having something brand new and yet something seemingly maybe a little fragile and that they're trying to work through
Yeah.
would be something fun to just to be at the beginning
Yeah.
of.
That totally would be. So the Art of Agile Living, if
Yeah.
anyone wants to get a copy, they want to reach out to you, learn more about what you're doing, any of the good business, where do they go?
Easiest way to get the book and I'll show the book so they know what it looks
Yes.
like is on Amazon.
Okay.
So it's available on Amazon.com. Just look for The Art of Agile Living by Helene Gidley and my business partner, Thomas Malash, that we've put together. And we also have a website. You can go to A2, that's the number 2, agile.com and /Agile Living. And
Excellent.
that'll get you a link to the book and some tutorials and an ebook as well, and a way to connect with us.
I
And
love
we'd
it.
love to talk with you. We'd love
Yeah.
to hear what people are saying and how it works for them.
Yeah. We'll keep the conversation going. This has been
Yeah.
wonderful. So nice to meet you. Thank you for your time today.
Yeah.
Continued success with everything.
Thank you so much, Joe. It was great to meet you and great to meet everyone on your podcast. Thanks for
Thank you.
having me.
You bet. Thank you. Take care.